Welcome to Wild Bill's Media and the Arts podcast. Today we're going to talk about Garth Brooks and being a true fan and the Fun album. Basically, I want to start off this episode just kind of giving you my background on Garth. I become a Garth Brooks fan back after the No Fences album came out. It had been out for a little bit, I think. And I remember my brother bringing it home for the first time, and I listened to it, and I was instantly hooked. And from that day forward, I was a Garth Brooks fan. And I have seen Garth three times in concert. And I will admit he is probably one of the greatest performers I've ever seen live on stage, except for maybe Metallica. Um, but I have kept up with Garth's career over the years. I bought all his records. I bought his box sets. I even supported his career once he had retired. When he kept putting out music but wasn't touring, and for that because he's used to putting out new music if you're not going to support it. Well, I still supported Garth and always had, and I always made reasons why I thought Garth should keep putting out music. Then he came back from retirement and he released Man Against Machine, which album for return, but I don't really think it was a uh, then it wasn't long after he released Gunslinger. I think that's Garth Brooks' album All Sessions, but that's my opinion. I Garth Brooks as an artist. I love his music. I think the man is one of the greatest talents that have ever graced country music, maybe any genre of music. I mean, there's nothing I have seen that Garth can't do. And but that doesn't take away the fact of some of the things done in who believe that you can't be a critic and you can't criticize an artist and be a true fan. Well, I disagree with that. And here's the reason why I disagree. A true fan will praise an artist when he does something right, puts out great music, puts out, um, does great things. He'll criticize an artist when an artist does something wrong. If his music's starting to become subpar, he's doing things and maybe in his career that aren't good. You criticize an artist for that. Okay, criticism helps build and make an artist become even better. If you praise now an artist for everything they do, that's not good for the artist because then the artist thinks there's not anything that they can't put out that people won't buy and go get and praise. And therefore, instead of putting out stuff great, they'll just start putting out mediocre stuff. Why should I put a lot of work and hard work into it when I can just put out anything and my fans will buy it? There's fans out there that will justify anything and everything that Garth Brooks does. And I don't look at that as a good thing because Garth should be criticized for some of the stuff that he does. And I think that's only fair, and that's fair with any artist out there, whether it's Garth Brooks or anybody. That's just the way I see it. My problem with Garth Brooks started around the Gunslinger era. Now, when Gunslinger was first released, it was released in a Target box set that he made exclusively through Target. And at the time, that was the only way you could get Gunslinger, and it come with, I think, like 2 extra songs. And one of them was like, I think, the 25th anniversary of Friends in Low Places that was re-recorded with some other artists, including George Strait. Now, like any other artist or any other fan of Garth Brooks, and I will admit that, I was one of those fans that went out and bought it because I wanted the fun album. I mean, the Gunslinger, I'm sorry. I wanted the Gunslinger album. And I wanted that uh, 25th anniversary of Friends in Low Places. Well, that's where I have a problem with the album. It's all rehashed stuff except for Gunslinger, the 25th anniversary song. And I think there might have been like one or two other tracks that was never released. I know like 1982 on there that Randy Travis cover. And I want to say Hard Luck Woman has never been released by Garth himself. I think he put it on a Kiss compilation album or a Kiss tribute album or something like that. But I don't ever think it was released by Garth himself on like any of his packages that I know of. And if I'm wrong, then just let me know. I thought that the Target box set, Garth just he what's the word I'm looking for? He dropped the ball on that album or that box set. He could have done so much more than just a rehash of old songs. He could have threw in a DVD, the concert of the Yankee Stadium show. He could have done something like that to, gave the fans something else to look forward to other than just a Gunslinger, because pretty much like all of Garth's releases, he does that. He releases a standalone version of the album later on, which I wound up and picked up. Now, I will say I think Gunslinger is one of the best albums, or maybe the best album since the Lost Sessions, and that's just my opinion. But then moving on, Garth decides, look here, I'm getting ready to bring out a new album. You can pre-order it now, and it will be out later. So, like most fans, I pre-ordered the album digitally on Amazon. Time and time went on. When you first pre-ordered the album, you got 2 tracks. You got The Road I'm On and All Day Long. You got those 2 songs right away. Well, then time went on and he dropped another song, and I want to say that was uh, either Stronger Than Me or Courage of Love or something like that. But the Courage of Love wasn't the album version, it was kind of like a demo version. Then, as time went on, he released Dive Bar, a duet which he had done with Blake Shelton. And then I think finally at the end, he released 2 more tracks, and one of them was Party Gras, and That's What Cowboys Do. Wound up being 7 tracks he released before the album was ever released. Now, one of the problems I had was Garth kept pushing the release date back. And then he would release other stuff before it, like he released an anthology, and then he released a vinyl collection. Now, I'm not harping on the vinyl collection because I never, previous up to that point, I'd never had any Garth albums on vinyl. So that was a good way for me to get the vinyl. So therefore, I'm not going to harp on the Legacy collection too much because at least I got Garth on vinyl, at least some of it anyway. I didn't care too much for how he done the packaging on that. You know, the albums were bare bones. There was hardly no thing to come with a record. It was just a sleeve and the record and the paper sleeve that it comes in. There were no lyric sheets or anything like that. When he did Triple Live, he put one song extra on the CD than he did on the album. It was a lot of people praised it. I found some criticism in it, and I criticized some of the stuff in it. But there was some good stuff in it too. I'm not going to lie. I think the CD part of it was just a rehash, but that's just my opinion. But anyway, he didn't want to release the Fun album because he didn't want it to compete with the Legacy collection. Well, then after that, COVID hit. Then he come and say, well, I don't want to release an album during the pandemic because people are struggling financially, having a tough time, and I don't want them spending their money on his music or whatever. Okay. Well, then, other artists were releasing albums during that time, and apparently they didn't do too bad because people bought them. Okay. I've always believed that in life, music will get you through anything. It has got me through some of the toughest times in my life. It has been a saving grace for me for a lot of years. And without music, I can't say that I'd be here. But then he kind of got hypocritical and released a drive-in concert pre-recorded and asked people to pay the money to go see it. It was kind of an excuse, well, kind of get you out of your house thing. It was $100 a carload for people to go to a concert and watch a pre-recorded show in a drive-in. Now, here's the hypocritical part about this, and I bash Garth for this, and a lot of people gave me flack for it, but I really don't care. Garth Brooks said he didn't want to release the Fun album for two reasons. One, people were struggling and financially, and he didn't want them to buy the album. And two, there was nothing fun because the album was called Fun. There was nothing fun about the pandemic. And so he felt that the title was kind of, wrong to release during the pandemic. Okay, before I get to the drive-in hypocrisy thing, here's where I also criticize Garth on that. Back when he released Gunslinger at the time, there were a bunch of mass shootings going on at schools and other thing like this. And people criticized him for releasing an album called Gunslinger. And Garth went on TV and said, I called it Gunslinger because I'm an artist who shoots from the hip. I do things the way I want to do them. So he went on and justified his name of Gunslinger, calling the album Gunslinger. But then come a few years later, he doesn't want to release an album called Fun because of the pandemic. And another reason because he didn't want people to spend money, but then turns around and records a pre-recorded concert playing at drive-ins where people would pay $100 a carload to go see. Okay, now, let's say you could get, I'm just going to throw this out here and say you could average about 5 people comfortably in a car, okay? So you take that as $20 a piece, okay? The Fun album was only $9.99 when it came out. And Talk Shop Live had it where you could get Fun album, Triple Live, and the Christmas album for $19.99. Now you were charging $100 a carload, but you still wasn't willing to release the album. I kind of find that a little hypocritical. Now, what I'm going to say is this. My opinions of the Fun album doesn't have to do with how I felt about Garth and the way he released the Fun album and everything that come along with it, the controversy and all that stuff. It's based on the music and it's based on the packaging and all that stuff. As you can tell up here on the screen, I have a picture of the Fun album. You can tell it's photoshopped. It just makes Garth looks like he's fake. It makes him look plasticky. It makes him look just not real. You know what I'm saying? Garth called this album fun because he felt it was like a fun record. And plus it was one of the funnest records he's ever made. And I noticed in this album that there's a lot of kind of upbeat songs. And that's a good thing. I mean, don't get me wrong. Now, there's 14 songs on the album, but 15 tracks altogether. And I will get to that little debacle here later. Now, Garth kicks off this album with a title called The Road I'm On. And it's pretty much a song about life on the road, touring. You know, it's just talking about the road he's on in his life because he's a touring artist. Great song, upbeat song. He also has a documentary that he released here last year called The Road I'm On. It's a good track. It's not a bad track. I actually really enjoy this track. It's one of the I think highlights of this record. Then he has track 2 called That's What Cowboys Do. And it's basically a song just kind of telling about the life of cowboys and how they live, you know, the things they do or whatever. And it's kind of a simple, and I love cowboy songs, always have and always will. Now, before I get to track 3 or whatever, I'm just going to state that I'm not going to go over every song on this album. I'm going to kind of, to me, hit the highlights of the album and just kind of give you my overall take on the album. Now, one of the songs that he released, another upbeat kind of song, is called All Day Long, and it just talks about how he can do the nightlife all day long, and it's just a fun, upbeat kind of song. Now, the next track is called Shallow. Now, this is a duet with his wife Trisha Yearwood. Now, a lot of people love this song. They love Garth. They love the duet. They love the song "Shallow." They praise it a lot. Now, I'm going to say something. When I first heard this song, I wasn't a big fan. I think it really wasn't the performance of the song. I just think that it was the song itself. Now, the more I've listened to this album, the more that song has grown on me, and it's actually become, you know, I have a little bit more different opinion on the song now than I did when I first heard it. But to be honest with you, I think the highlight of that song is Trisha Yearwood. Her vocals and her performance on that song is just outstanding. I mean, you can't say nothing bad about it. It's next level. Then we come to the next duet on the album, which is track 6 called Dive Bar. This is a song he done with Blake Shelton. And it's just basically talking about, you know, spending the weekend at the deep end of a dive bar. And the song actually is fun. I like the song. I'm not going to lie. I do enjoy the song. But this is the only song so far on the album that he's made a video for. And the video sucks. It stinks. The video's just, it's not even worth watching. And the bad part about it is the video kind of ruins the song, because when you go to hear the song, the only images you can get is the images from that dumbass video he made. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, if you can find it, look up the dive bar video by Garth Brooks. Now, I'm moving on down the line a little bit to another song on this album that I really enjoy. And I think is one of the highlights on this album. And it's a song called Where the Cross Don't Burn. And this is another duet. And he did with the late, great Charlie Pride. May he rest in peace. I love the song. I love the lyrics. I love the message of the song. My problem with the song is there's not enough of Charlie Pride on the record. He only sings like one verse in the whole song. And I think that the song could have used more Charlie Pride. I think it should have been an equal effort by both singers. And I really do think that I think this may have been one of the last recordings with Charlie Pride in it, and I would have loved to have seen more of him on this record. But I don't make those choices. And it still doesn't detract from the song. It's still a great song. I love it. It's probably one of my favorite songs on the album. Now, I'm not going to tell you about it, but after that, this is where the debacle comes in. Everybody knows that Garth Brooks has a superstitious thing about 13. I don't know what it is, why, or nothing. But there's a track 13 on this album, but it's like 4 seconds of dead air. Nothing. Then the CD jumps to 14, and the track Party Gras plays after that. Now, the thing that gets me is when I buy a record, I want to get everything that I get for my money. I don't want blank tracks. I'm sorry, but that's just the way I feel. I think that he should have just left the album at 14 tracks with 14 songs and not 15 tracks with only 14 songs and a track of dead air for 4 seconds. Because on the back of the CD, it jumps from 12 to 14 and then 15. It doesn't even mention 13 on the back of the cover. But there's a 13 track on the CD. It's just 4 seconds of dead air. Now, I am going to get to my favorite song on the whole album. I think this song is the highlight of this record. And the minute I heard this song on the documentary, The Road I'm On, this was the song I wanted off the Fun album. I said, when the Fun album comes out, this is the song I'm looking forward to. And this song is called Sometimes You Have to Die to Live Again. And basically, it's just talking about how you have to let your heart break. You have to do all these things, and you have to die inside before you can truly live again. I love this song because this song speaks to me. I'm going to go on a little story here for a minute. And I'm going to talk a little bit about this song in my life. And I'm going to tell you why this song means so much to me. 20 years ago, or a little over 20 years ago now, I was with the love of my life, my soulmate, the person I could never see my life without. Then one day she decided that I wasn't what she wanted anymore and left. And for 20 years of my life, I've held on to a hope and dream that someday we could rekindle what we had all those years ago. And I have spent the last 20 years of my life finding a way to live again. For those of you who don't know, Garth Brooks has a song off the chase. It's called Learning to Live Again. It almost kind of reminds me of this song. It's funny how the titles are almost similar. And after that day, on that day when she left, I died inside. And for 20 years, I have lived with the hurt, the brokenness, and all the things that have come with what happened on that day. Questions I've asked, never got answers for, and all that. And the funny thing about all this is, I finally had an epiphany. I sat down to myself the other day and I thought, you know what, Will? You never learn to live again. You haven't even begun to live. Because I have still carried those things in my life for so long that they have defined who I am. I have finally let those things go. I have finally decided to move on. Because I always had a belief that moving on and letting go meant you were giving up. You were giving up on the thing that you care about, the thing that you stood for, and the times that you had with a certain person. And as long as you fought for those things, then you were fighting a righteous cause. For 20 years, I fought alone. I have come to the realization that I can't change the past. I can't change now. And I can't um, change her mind nor mine. So I finally said, you know what? It's time to let all that baggage go. I finally realized that letting go and moving on means you can still love that person. You can still cherish the times you had, and you can never stop caring about that person. But you can always love again. You can always do all these other things. That feelings that you had for that person, those times you shared, and all that will always be in your heart, your mind, and your soul. But you have to live again. I was dead inside for so long. I didn't know what living again was like. I have finally let I have finally let all that shit go. Now I'm living again. From this day on, things are different. I've come to the realization that I've never really learned to live again because I never let those things go. I died inside, but now I'm living again. And I just want to say that if you don't buy this record for any other track, buy it for Sometimes You Have to Die to Live Again. It is the best song on this whole record, hands down. And Garth Brooks' performance is spot on. It is just so great. Every time I hear this song, makes me realize the reason I love Garth so much as an artist. The reason I fell in love with Garth's music all those years ago. Is the Fun album perfect? No, it's not. Is the Fun album worth the wait? No, it wasn't. I mean, there's some really highlight tracks on this record, and most of them I mentioned. Um, some other people will probably disagree with me and choose some of the other tracks, and that's fine. That's your opinion, just like I have mine. But truth be told, Garth Brooks is going to have to pull a rabbit out of his ass if he wants to beat Gunslinger. I think that's his best album to date. The Fun album has some highlights. It has some good songs, but to me, I just don't think it's the album we should have got after over a 2 year wait. If I had to give this album a rating, it would be about 3 stars. Um, I would have gave it a little more if a couple of the songs, like for instance, "When the Cross Don't Burn," would have had more Charlie Pride in it. Just the packaging of the album is okay. It's not his best. Um, yeah, I think there could have been a lot more things done about this record. And another thing I'm going to criticize Garth on is that he waited so long to bring the album out that all his fans wasn't able to get it. He was talking about that there might be fans overseas in other countries that may not get the album for a while because he waited too long to bring it out. And those were words from Garth, not mine. He admitted to waiting too long to bring the album out. I believe that um, if he would have released the album earlier, if it's still and I do believe that it would have been the same album no matter what. But maybe people would see it differently if they hadn't waited so long. Me, I judge an album by the music, and I just don't think some of the songs stand up to the par of what Garth would put on some of his records. Like I say, minus maybe one track, Gunslinger's the best album he's done to date since his comeback. Um, but like I said, that's my opinion. So I would recommend the Fun album to those people who are true Garth Brooks fans. Um, there's some real highlight songs on this, and like I said, to me, I think the best song on the album is "Sometimes You Have to Die to Live Again." That is a great song. But that is basically all I have to say. I know there's people out there who will criticize this episode of my podcast because of the things I've said about Garth and the criticisms that I have against him. And it's because I'm a true fan. I love Garth and his music. I don't necessarily always agree with the choices he makes as a businessman, But as far as the music and his talent and everything, I really have no complaints. I mean, the man is a great artist. It's just his music, his career choices that I have a problem with. His business side, I have a problem with. Therefore, um, that's about all I can really say. I just want to say thank you for listening. All I ask, if you enjoy this episode and you enjoy this podcast in general, check out some of my other episodes. If you really enjoyed this podcast, please share it to all your social media accounts. I'm trying to get as many views and many subscribers as I can. Um, I want to build this channel to heights and bring you all kind of different artists and genres and music, movies, and books, and just actors and artists and everything that has something to do with some type of media. So, like I said, if you enjoyed this podcast, please share it, like and subscribe to it. And this is Wild Bill signing out of Wild Bill's Media and the Arts podcast. Again, I thank you for listening and have a blessed day and a good day. Thank you.